I gotta be honest guys, the fall 2024 season of anime is kind of wearing me down. I mean, everything that I've watched for the past few weeks has been mid. The last two videos that I made were about anime that I don't recommend, and spoiler, the next one is probably also about anime that I don't recommend. I just haven't been enjoying the season much, and don't get me wrong, I know that Dan to Dan exists. The big hitters from last season were very popular and seemingly did very well when it comes to Bleach, the newest season of Re:Zero, Shangri-La Frontier, but when it comes to the B series of shows, the sort of background shows that come out after the big names, it's a really weak season. Now, maybe that's just because of the S tier lineups that were spring and summer.
Big summer blowout?
But the point is, I'm really not enjoying this season of anime, so I wanted to go back and watch something that I did enjoy. So with that out of the way, hello and welcome back to Welcome to Binging Past Season, a new series on my channel where I talk about anime that aired in long forgotten years, like 2022. And today that anime is Reincarnated as a Sword, and as a special little treat for you guys, I'm actually going to do something that rarely happens on this channel, give critical analysis.
Wow.
But first, a little plot summary. A guy dies, he gets isekai'd, becomes a legendary sword in a fantasy world, a cat girl picks him up, and they go on adventures together. Hey, a plot doesn't have to be complicated for it to be good, alright? But a little more detail never hurt anybody. The black cat's name is Fran, and her dream is to become strong enough to evolve, an ability that most species in the world have except for black cats. They got that ability taken away in the past, and she despises her own weakness, which means that it is a very good thing that she happened to meet our reincarnated sword because he is OP as a motherfucker. This sword is not as useless as certain vending machines we know. He reincarnates with the ability to control himself essentially, to levitate, and does some power leveling to become a brick shithouse, a steel The point is, the moment that Fran equips this sword, she becomes as strong as he is, gaining all of his skills. So she ends up naming him Shisho, or Master. It's the Master Sword, by the way. I don't know if you caught that. They embark on a quest to become adventurers and end racism, yada yada. Look, let's just talk about the stuff that I like here, because there's really not anything that I dislike. The first thing that I like is actually because of the subs, so if you watch English dubs, you're wrong, go away. Whoever worked on the subs for this anime went ballistic. Like, absolutely crazy, held nothing back, wrote all sorts of foul language, and look, I understand a bit of conversational Japanese. I think the person who did the subs went a little bit overboard, but to be fair, this anime is hardcore from the outset. Like, the things that happen in the anime are surprisingly brutal. Like, you don't necessarily expect it going in, although I will say it has a good mix of brutality and sort of like easygoing energy. It's not as intense as something like a Goblin Slayer, but it is, I'm not doing this recording again, I've done it like 5 times. It is intense. Don't get me wrong, I like anime that's happy-go-lucky, but I also like it when it's crazy and over the top, and this show definitely falls into the latter of those two categories with its subs and with the things that happen on the screen. I like the action too. The fight scenes were well choreographed, they were visually pleasing, and I didn't really get bored at any point. The anime doesn't really slow down. But the best thing about Reincarnated as a Sword, and if you've read the title, you knew this was coming, is how it balances its OP protagonist. How it balances this overpowered sword in such a way where you don't feel like he is just an unstoppable force of nature. See, I was talking to my buddies the other day about OP protagonists, and one of them said that his main problem with solo leveling season 1 is that the moment that he started to level up, nobody really thought that Jinwoo was gonna lose. Like, he was just watching the show going like, okay, well, how is he gonna win this fight? It's not like he can lose this fight. The show has basically told me that that's not possible. So he's going to win. It's just a matter of how does he do it. But having a protagonist that can't lose sort of removes the tension from an anime. You sort of sit there going, well, you know, I can watch the spectacle of a fight and say like, oh, look at the big move, and oh, that was crazy. But at the end of the day, I know what's going to happen. I already know the outcome, and that can tear a lot of anime down. And don't get me wrong, I have a small brain. I like an OP protagonist. I like it when they walk around and screw shit up left and screw shit up. What am I, 5? Am I making this for 5th graders? They fuck shit up left and right. Oh my god. I like it when strong guy make bad guy go boom, but the The best anime tend to balance this in some way, and the master of this is One, the guy who wrote Mob Psycho 100 and One Punch Man, two shows that approach this in completely different ways. On one hand, you have One Punch Man, which is basically just a comedy, more or less. It's just like, he's never going to lose. You know it from the outset. The point is, how funny can we make it? How silly can we make these situations where he is never going to lose? How can we make his greatest enemy in the entire series be one standard mosquito? And on the other hand, you have Mob Psycho 100, which really, tackles his mental state. The fact that this kid is like completely unstoppable, but the best way to get at him is actually to make him hurt emotionally. And then you've got Reincarnated as a Sword, which uses a method that I like to call the heart method. Somebody else probably calls it that too, or they call it something different. This is an established method in writing. When you take your massively overpowered character and you pair them with a character referred to as the heart. Somebody who is vulnerable, who is not unstoppable, and who can be hurt. And the point is for that overpowered character to make sure that the heart does not die. Because that sword that I mentioned earlier, like you forgot about it. This video is like 6 minutes. But the sword that we mentioned earlier is unstoppable, is like OP. But he's not actually the protagonist. I don't actually consider the sword to be the main character. The main character is actually Fran. The sword is just the person, he's a sword, that we see through the eyes of as the anime goes. But as far as the story is concerned, the main character, the heart, the driving force of the story is Fran. And she can very much be killed. And sure, anybody with a brain could put together that if Fran gets separated from her magical OP talking sword, that she is going to be vulnerable. But what's important is that the show establishes this. And it establishes that this is the main threat to these two. More to this one. The sword is never going to be in danger, to be honest with you. But again, we don't care if the sword lives or dies, because we know he's going to live no matter what. Our emotional anchor is Fran. And we hope that she stays safe. And she is actually in danger at different times. She can get this sword forcefully taken from her if the right circumstances come up. And that would put her in significant danger, which would make you feel tension as a viewer. You'd sit there and go, oh shit, is she going to make it out? And she is the one I care about, so I hope she does. It's just good. It's good writing. It's not that much to ask for. Just write stuff good. Just write stuff good. Caveman brain, dude. Reincarnated as a Sword was great. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I have almost no complaints. If it's missing anything, I would say it's a sense of scale. There's no really big climactic moment that happens across the season. It's really just a series of smaller stories that don't really mean too much. Fun side characters. It's a good time across the board. It's a little bit intense at moments, but I would say it is well balanced enough that those moments aren't that big of a deal. Again, this isn't Goblin Slayer. It's not Shield Hero. You're not going to cry. Nobody in the show is going, well, some people will cry, but yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Trust me. It's a good show. All right. 9 out of 10, solid anime. You should watch it. If you don't watch it, I'm going to find you.